The war had been going badly for 3 years. The Empire controlled half the galaxy, their ships moving like silver death across the stars. They had conquered 400 worlds without losing a single battle. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop any attack. Their generals had never known defeat. Now they came for Earth. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the screens. He felt nothing but calm certainty. This would be like all the others. The humans would see his fleet, try to negotiate, then surrender when they understood resistance was pointless. Some species fought longer than others, but all of them eventually bowed. He had studied the humans during the journey. They were weak creatures, no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They could not breathe underwater or survive in space without protection. They lived barely 100 years. Their military technology was centuries behind by every measure they should have died out long ago. Yet something about them made uncomfortable. The humans had only reached their own moon 200 years ago. Now they had colonies on 12 worlds. They had built a civilization in the blink of an eye. That was unusual. That was worth noting. But it would not save them. Opened a communication channel to Earth. The human leader appeared on screen, a woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. Her name was President. "I am commander of the Empire," he said in the universal trade language. "You will surrender your world immediately. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. You have 1 hour to respond." President looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. "No," she said. Blinked. No species had refused this quickly. Most begged for time, asked for negotiations, tried to buy a few more days of freedom. "You do not understand," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "We have 6,000 warships. You have 300. We have weapons that can crack your planet open. Surrender now and your people will be allowed to live under rule." "I understand perfectly," said, "and my answer is still no. You want Earth, come and take it." The screen went dark. Felt anger rise in his chest. These humans needed to learn their place. He gave the order to attack. The fleet moved forward like a wall of metal and fire. Their first wave of missiles could destroy continents. Watched the screens, waiting to see the human defense satellites explode, waiting for the panic to begin. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships moved, but they did not move away. They moved forward straight at the fleet. 300 small ships against 6,000 massive warships. It was insane. It was suicide. And then the humans opened fire. Their weapons were strange. Not the clean energy beams of advanced civilizations, but crude explosive missiles and magnetic that threw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Some ships even had chemical lasers that looked like they belonged in a museum. But there were so many of them. The humans fired everything, all at once, holding nothing back. Thousands of missiles filled the space between the fleets. Rounds moved too fast to track. The first line of ships vanished in clouds of fire and torn metal. Stared, this was wrong. The humans should have been running. Instead, they were charging, screaming battle cries over open channels, calling his fleet names in a dozen human languages. One small human ship crashed directly into a battleship, its captain shouting something about remembering some place called Pearl Harbor. Both ships exploded. More human ships followed. When they ran out of missiles, they used. When they overheated, they rammed. The void filled with debris and bodies and the burning wrecks of both fleets. Realized with cold horror that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure they paid for every meter of space in blood. By the time his fleet pulled back, he had lost 800 ships. The humans had lost over 200, but the survivors were already turning around, firing what little ammunition they had left. Had never retreated before, but he gave the order anyway. The battle for Earth had only begun, and already he understood why the humans had named their home after dirt. They would fight for every handful of it. The second wave came 3 days later, had requested reinforcements and received another 4,000 ships. This time he would not underestimate the humans. This time he would use the full might of the Empire. He began with orbital bombardment, targeting human cities from beyond their weapons' range. The particle cannons could burn through any shield. He watched 5 cities vanish in white fire. But the humans did not surrender. Instead, they adapted. Human ships that could not reach the fleet launched their missiles on slow, curving paths, using planets and moons for gravity assists. Some missiles traveled for hours before striking. Others hid in debris fields, waiting like patient predators. When moved his ships to avoid the missiles, the humans struck from the surface. They had built on mountains, massive weapons that reached into space. They fired continuously, spending power like water, burning out their own equipment just to hurt the humans built more. He destroyed those, they built them faster. He started to understand something about humans that no had ever learned. They were not strong. They were not fast. They had no special gifts, but they had something worse than all of that. They refused to quit. A human ship with no weapons left would vent its atmosphere to create thrust, just to ram one more vessel. A human soldier with no ammunition would throw rocks. A human city under bombardment would hide its children and send its parents out to fight with whatever tools they could find. One human pilot, her ship crippled and drifting, managed to fire her emergency beacon directly into a sensor array. The electromagnetic pulse blinded 3 ships. She died when the ships opened fire, but not before transmitting a message that every human in the system heard. "Still here," she said, "still fighting." It became a human battle cry, heard it on every channel. When he destroyed a human position, the survivors would broadcast those 2 words, "Still here, still fighting." By the end of the second week, had lost 2,000 more ships. The space around Earth was filled with so much debris that navigation became dangerous. Both fleets were mining the wreckage for metal to repair their ships. Dead vessels became human ammunition. Dead human vessels became shielding. And still the humans fought. Looked at the tactical displays and felt something he had not felt in 50 years of conquest. He felt doubt. They were winning, but barely. For every human ship destroyed, they damaged or killed 3 vessels. The math was clear. At this rate, they would win. But there would be nothing left, not the fleet, not Earth, nothing but ghosts and wreckage. He tried one more time to contact President. This time she looked even more tired. Her uniform was torn. There was blood on her face. "Surrender," said, "please, this is pointless. You are killing your own people for nothing." Looked at him with eyes like stone. "You still do not understand," she said quietly. "You think we fight for victory. You are wrong. We fight because you are here, because you thought you could take our home, because you believed we would just accept slavery." She leaned closer to the screen. "We are not fighting for nothing, Commander. We are fighting for everything, and we will never stop. Even if you kill every human in this system, others will come. We have colonies, we have ships, and they all know what you did here. You wanted Earth. You can have the ashes, but you will bleed for every handful." The screen went dark again. Sat in his command chair and tried to calculate odds. The Empire had ships. They had soldiers. They had time. They could eventually grind the humans down. But it would cost everything. And even then, the human colonies would come for revenge. This war would never end. He had won 400 worlds, but Earth was different. The humans were different. The message went out through quantum channels, reaching every corner of space. Commander sent it himself, knowing it would end his career, possibly his life. But he had seen enough. "The human cannot be taken," he transmitted. "I repeat, Earth cannot be taken. Request immediate withdrawal of all forces. The response from the High Command was immediate and furious, was ordered to continue the attack. Reinforcements were already coming, another 10,000 ships. The humans would be crushed. The example would be set. Looked at the tactical display. Looked at the growing debris field. Looked at the casualty reports that grew longer every hour. He thought about the human pilot who died just to blind 3 ships. Thought about the city that had been bombed flat but somehow kept launching missiles from the rubble. He thought about President's words, "They will never stop." She was right. Made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He opened a channel to every ship in his fleet, broadcasting on frequencies that both and human forces could hear. All vessels, this is Commander. We are withdrawing from this system immediately. Any ship that fires on human targets from this moment forward will be considered a traitor to the Empire. Chaos erupted on the command channel. Officers demanded explanations. Some ships refused to obey, but most of the fleet had been fighting for 3 weeks. They had seen their friends die. They had seen humans fight with broken ships and ancient weapons and bare hands. They had learned to fear humanity. Slowly the fleet turned away from Earth. Some ships left immediately. Others waited, guns trained on the human positions, ready for one final attack. But the attack never came. President appeared on every screen again. This time she was standing in what looked like a destroyed command center. Exposed wires hung from the ceiling. The walls were scorched, but she was still alive, still standing. "Commander," she said, "are you surrendering?" "No," replied. "The Empire does not surrender. We are choosing to leave. There is a difference." "Not much of one from where I am standing." Felt tired beyond words. "Perhaps, but I will tell you something, President. They have conquered 400 worlds. We have never lost, but we have also never fought anyone like you." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "You humans are weak. Your ships are outdated. Your weapons are primitive. By every measure, you should have been defeated in hours, but you have something we do not. You have a refusal to accept the inevitable. You fight when fighting is pointless. You sacrifice when sacrifice gains nothing, and somehow that makes you dangerous in a way we cannot calculate." President said nothing. She just waited. "I am withdrawing my fleet," continued. "Not because you defeated us in battle, but because even in victory you would make us pay a price the Empire cannot afford. You would make every world we conquer wonder if they too could resist. You would make our soldiers afraid, and fear is something that cannot allow." He leaned forward, looking directly at the camera. "Consider this a warning, President. The Empire is leaving Earth, but there are other empires in the galaxy, other conquerors. They will come, and they will not show mercy." For the first time, President smiled, a real smile. "Let them come," she said. "We will be ready." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth's system in a cascade of light. Behind them, the debris field still burned. Thousands of ships from both sides would drift in that graveyard for centuries, a reminder of the battle. President watched them go from the ruined command center. Around her, exhausted officers began to cheer. They had won. Humanity had survived. But did not cheer. She was already thinking about the next threat, the next battle, the next impossible fight, because was right, others would come. And humanity would be ready. The story of Earth stands spread through the galaxy like fire. At first, other empires did not believe it. They were lying to excuse a defeat. The humans had some secret weapon. It was propaganda. Then the evidence came. Debris analysis, captured recordings, testimonies from survivors who had been there, who had seen humans fight with everything they had, holding nothing back, spending lives like currency to buy just one more minute of freedom. The galaxy learned a new truth. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest they did not have the best technology or the most powerful weapons. But they had something else, something that could not be measured in firepower or ships or soldiers. They had the absolute certainty that some things were worth dying for, and they would die in their thousands, in their millions, rather than accept slavery. The collective, who had been planning their own invasion of human space, quietly canceled the operation. The hierarchy declared humanity a protected species, not worth the cost of conquest. Even the massive war machine, which had crushed civilizations for 10,000 years, decided to leave human worlds alone. One by one, the empires reached the same conclusion. Earth could be taken. Human colonies could be destroyed. But the price would be too high. And even in victory, the survivors would never stop coming. They would fight with stolen ships and salvaged weapons, and if necessary their bare hands, generation after generation, until the enemy was destroyed or humanity was extinct. Most empires decided they had better things to do. Some younger species asked the obvious question: if humans were so dangerous, why not destroy them now before they became too strong? The answer always came from species who had fought humans before, or who had studied the battle for Earth. Because, they would say, humans are dangerous when they are weak. Imagine what they will be like when they are strong. It was not a pleasant thought. 50 years after the battle for Earth, Commander died of old age. He had been stripped of rank, exiled from space, and lived his final years on a quiet colony world far from the Empire. Before he died, he wrote a book. It was a simple thing, barely 100 pages, describing his experiences at Earth. It became required reading at every military academy in the galaxy, in every language for every species. The final passage was the most famous. "I have fought 1,000 battles," wrote. "I have seen species with natural armor that could stop missiles, predators who could crush ships with their bare hands, minds so advanced they could calculate faster than computers. I have seen weapons that could destroy stars and shields that could stop any attack. But the most dangerous thing I ever encountered was a human who had decided they would rather die than surrender. Because that human could turn anything into a weapon. Because that human would fight until their last breath. And because that human's death would inspire 10 more to take their place. I learned something at Earth that I wish I had known before. Strength is not about size or power or technology. Strength is about the distance between what you can endure and what you will accept. And humans will accept nothing." The book ended there, but its message spread through the galaxy like a wave, changing how every species viewed humanity. They were no longer seen as weak newcomers. They were seen as something far more worrying, a species that could not be broken, a people who would fight impossible battles and somehow survive. Humanity, for their part, rebuilt their fleet. They improved their weapons. They fortified their colonies. And every year on the anniversary of the battle for Earth, they held a ceremony. It was a simple ceremony. No speeches, no celebrations, just a moment of silence for the thousands who had died defending their home. And then, broadcast across every human world, in every language, someone would speak 2 words. "Still here." And every human, from Earth to the furthest colony, would respond with 2 more. "Still fighting." It was a promise to the dead, a warning to the living, and a declaration to the galaxy. Humanity had learned something in the fires of that first great battle. They had learned that they were not invincible. They had learned that they could bleed and die and lose. But they had also learned that they would never, ever stop. And that made all the difference.